Good day, everybody. Well, today we're going to fix Delicata squash. You might think that name is pronounced wrong, but that's the way I've understood it to be pronounced. And we're going to get with it. We're going to do it in the oven. And this is a Delicata squash. First of all, I've cut one in half. I've got to get the seeds out of it. And yes, you can save these seeds and plant them. If you have a garden and you grow stuff, you can save these seeds and plant them. Or you can roast them. But I'd rather plant them so I can get more squash. I haven't gotten many things out of my garden this year because it's been so hot. But I have gotten a few things. We're going to cut the end of it off on both ends, and I should have done that before I started to cut them in half. And I'm going to cut them about 3/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch. I don't want them too wide. I don't want them too narrow. The key is to get them all the same width, so they'll cook at the same rate. Find kind of the flat surface, and then we're just gonna cut it open. Get our seeds out. The seed stuck to me. Preheat your oven to 450 degrees. Probably should have got a little bigger bowl. Yeah, I may do that because I made to use this bowl right here. It's a little bit bigger than that one. Because I got several things we're fixing here. But we're starting out with the Delicata squash. Now we need about, and I forgot to get it. I know my olive oil is in that little sprayer, but I want the other one. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Spread it around. I've got some red cayenne pepper. And I'm using just red pepper because I don't have any cayenne right now. And let's see, we're going to put about 1/8 of a teaspoon of that in there. Doesn't take much. Because we don't want it terribly hot. And we're going to put about 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to kind of mix it together. Try to coat each one of those pieces with olive oil and the pepper and the salt. Whoops. But just kind of try to get it all good and coated. And we're going to come over here to our baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper. And we're going to lay each piece out on a single file or single layer. And I'm hoping this is big enough to get all of this in here. I tried to pick a pan that would accommodate all of this. It's going to be tight. but I think it'll go. Perfect. It made me one whole pan. And I'm going to just drizzle what little bit of olive oil I've got left right over it. It's not much. And I got a seed in there. How did I get a seed in there? And we're going to bake it in a 450 degrees oven until the bottoms are really nice and browned, or about 12 to 18 minutes. So you see I got a pan full. Now I'm just going to place it right in there, about the center of your oven. And we'll bring you back in about 12 to 8. Well, no, I think I'm going to go ahead and start on this next one, because I've got several squashes I'm going to show you how to do. These are sweet dumplings. And if you pick them when they're grown like that and leave the stem partial on it, you can store them. Just bring them in, keep them in a cool, dark place, and you can store them for a long time. They're more like a winter squash. And I'm not going to cook all of them. I've got 4. So I'm going to cook 2 of them. If I can get them cut. Because they're a little hard. And again, I'm going to get the seeds out of these because I'm going to save it. I'll plant more with it. Well, it depends on how much it fills up this pan that I've got. I might cook more than just 2. I don't know. But get your seeds out. We're going to lay them in the pan. And you notice I'm cutting them this way, because if I cut them the other way, that stem is not, well, it might. I'll show you 2 ways to cut them. You can either cut them this way, or the way I cut them. Cut the other one. Either way is fine. Now these are the sweet dumpling squash. So I'm showing you 3 different squash recipes. We need to take a fork and poke holes in the outside skin. Just take that off. It's not hard to stick holes in it, but just go around and put a few holes in the outside of it. Now, I wish I'd have cut all of them that way, but oh well. But you see that there is options. You can cut them either way. It doesn't really matter. Now, these are going to be more of a sweet squash. You can either use butter, or I'm going to use olive oil. I'm going to spray the tops of it. It's the easiest way I know to get the olive oil in there without just rubbing my hands all down in it. I need my nutmeg and my cinnamon. Ground cinnamon, maple syrup, and I don't have maple syrup, so I'm going to use honey right here, and salt. You know what? I'm going to use my salt shaker because it don't come out as much. Just coat them a little bit of salt. We're going to put a little bit of honey in each one. About a teaspoonful. Sprinkle on some nutmeg. Now, these are your sweet dumplings. So these are going to be kind of a sweet dessert type of a squash here. Got cinnamon, just ground cinnamon. We're going to add just a little bit of water to the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to bake these at about 450 for 30 to 45 minutes. So I'm going to put those kind of at the back of the oven. Now, we've got our eggplant. And these are all the little eggplants I got out of my garden this morning. There's not many. And we're going to roast that right in there with all of our other squash. Let me get this bowl. I need my bowl. But I didn't have a lot of each one, so I wanted to show you, the recipes for fixing each one of them. That you can roast them in the oven. You can put these pans on the grill. They're really not big enough to do the other ways you do them, like Parmesan, eggplant Parmesan, and stuff like that. So I decided I was going to roast them. And of course, I guess I could have made stuffed eggplant, but I'd rather roast it. If I get any more, maybe I'll stuff them the next time. This is the first crop of little eggplants that I've gotten. Now all I'm going to do with these is sprinkle salt on them. And we're going to leave them set for about 10 minutes. I know a lot of people say soak them in salt water, but I don't want to do that because they'll come out, and I had just enough salt to put in there.
I want them to be crispy, so I'm just going to leave them salted for about 10 minutes. You can see they're getting wet already because they draw the moisture out of the eggplant, and we'll pat them dry before we put them in the pan. So we'll let those set for about 10 minutes. Meanwhile, I can get over, whoops, I can come over here and clean up some of my mess. Put all my scraps in this compost bucket, bowl that I've got. I'm also going to label my my seeds over here. The first one was sweet dumpling. That was this one right here. And it's so sticky it'll be hard to get this pulp off of the seed until it dries. So I'm just going to spread it out on this paper towel on this plate. You can see that. And I'm simply going to let it dry. And then I can break the seeds off of the pulp and just save the seeds. But you got to let them dry first. So that's my sweet dumpling. And you know, that's like 3 or 4 packs of seeds or more right there. You don't get that many seeds when you buy them in a package. And here I've got my no, that's a sweet dumpling. I'm sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. I'm saving the wrong seed of sweet dumpling. So I'll just transfer these over. This was the Delicata here. This is the sweet dumpling. Yeah, if I can save my seeds, I save my seeds because it'll just keep you from having to buy new seeds the next year, the next growing season. And you know they're tried and true. I mean, you've already planted them. They've grown, so you know they should grow. Just pull the seeds out of the pulp the best you can. Lay them on your paper towel in your plate. If you don't get every single one of them, that's okay. You'll have enough. At least I will, because I'm not going to plant acres of squash next year. I'll just plant a few tubs of them, so I'm going to have plenty of seeds from these few squash. But they are sticky. They like to stick to your fingers. I got it going down in the stove. But there they are, sweet dumpling and delicata squash seed that I'm going to dry right there. Put this in my little compost bin bucket I got. Rinse off my fingers. And this is Delicata. Delicata squash, and look how many seeds I got out of those little bitty squash. Let's check on my Delicata squash. They'll cook quicker than any of it. Drain the liquid out of these eggplant. Now we're going to put about a half a teaspoon of black pepper in my bowl. We're going to put, I don't have ground fennel, so I'm not going to use it. I've got 1 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. Where's my cumin? Right here. And I'm just going to sprinkle it in. I'll guess at it and then just mix it up. I'm going to put cloves. Ground cloves, I'm going to put ground cinnamon,
And if you have fresh mint, you can use fresh mint. I don't have any, so I'm just gonna like mix this up, stir it all in there, coat it good. I needed a little bit of olive oil, about a teaspoon or tablespoon, I'm sorry. It depends on how many eggplants you got. I don't have as many for the full recipe. So just put enough of olive oil in there to coat your eggplants, and mix in all your ingredients with it, your your pepper, your salt, your cumin, your cinnamon. And now we're just going to lay them out here on this pan. And we're going to roast these for about 20 minutes. See, those little amount of eggplants made me one little pan. Now I'm going to check on my Delicata squash. See how they're coming along. Those were the first ones we put in. They're starting to brown. We're starting to roast a little. But they're not quite roasted enough. I'm going to put them back in, and because they're done right now, but I'm going to roast them a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is spray them at this point. I spray them because I don't want that much on them. A little bit of olive oil across the top. And I'm going to put them back in the pan, in the oven. And I'm going to get one out. That one says, "Take me, take me." See, that's how I want all of them. I want them browned, and all of them are not all brown like that. Woo, it's hot. That is good. You can serve these with like any kind of dressing. Ranch dressing, avocado dressing, blue cheese dressing, honey mustard dressing. But they're so good you can eat them just by themselves, and they're delicious. They have a sweet, nutty taste, and they're really good. I'm hot. Y'all take a bite. It's good. I'm just so glad you could cook them all on the same heat. I mean, if your 450 oven is too hot, you can turn it back to 400 or 425. I got seeds on my stove. And squash all over the top. So I think I'm going to wash up my few dishes here while our squash is cooking. And one of my viewers suggested that when I use my good cutting board, you know, that has North Carolina etched on it, to turn it over and use the back part of it for cutting. That way I don't ruin the face of it. I hate to use it at all. I want to kind of like hang it on the wall. It's a really nice cutting board. I hate to even use it and mess it up. Now, let's see. Check on our squash. Yeah, they need to stay in just a little bit longer, but what I'm going to do is spin them around. Put the other end to the back. Put this one to the front. My dumplings back there are looking good. Leave them in there a few more minutes. I was looking for a dressing, but I can't find it. I'm not sure where I put it. But oh well. But like I said, you can use the Delicata squash as like an appetizer. You can put it on a platter, put it out for people to eat, and just eat it with your fingers. Pick it up off, when it's cooled. Dip it in your choice of dressing, or any type of a vegetable dip would be great. A honey mustard would be my number one, and I don't know where mine is. I may have used it all. But anyway, a honey mustard, a ranch. Oh, I do have ranch. Let me go get that. I have a ranch classic dressing dip. So I'm going to use that. But like I said, you can use a blue cheese. You can make a vegetable dip of your choice, like an onion dip or anything. We'll put a little bit in this serving little glass, little dish. And I've got actually honey mustard that you can use. You can actually and get this other little container out because I don't want to mix much of it up. Put the honey mustard out in the little dish. And I'm going to add just a little bit more honey to it. Stir it around. So we've got two dips right there. We've got a honey mustard dip. That's good. And we've got a ranch. Ranch and honey mustard dip. Either one you want to dip it in. Whew. Those are looking good. But I want them just a little bit more. So I'm going to pop them right back in for a few more minutes. I want them to crunch. I want them almost like a French fry. So when you go to eat it and you dip it, it's kind of solid with a little crunch on it. It's going to be real good that way. But anyway, this is 3 recipes. You got your roasted eggplant. You've got your delicata squash that we just put back in the oven. And you've got your sweet dumpling squash that we've got in there that we cut them in half. And each half is 1 serving. So I've got enough for 4 people, because there's 4 halves in that pan, which is for 4 people. You can serve them as a side, an added side dish, or something kind of almost like a end of the meal dessert type squash. So let those cook just a little bit more. While I clean up some more of my dishes. Somebody asked me one time why I didn't do a cleaning video. I thought to myself, well, I basically clean while I'm cooking. At least in the kitchen anyway. I don't come in here and just do a separate video just on washing my dishes. Let them cook just a little bit more. But I hope you remembered what I put in each one. I tried to do them separately, but together. So when I went down through the list of ingredients that I put in each different squash, then you know what was going in it. So if you need to, you can replay that section to get the ingredients for that particular squash. Or while we're waiting on that to cook, what I can do is go down the list. For the eggplant, just to roast your eggplant, and you'll have to put the amount of seasoning according to how many eggplants you have. But the original recipe, it calls for 1 medium-sized eggplant, which mine were real small. 1½ tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil, 1/2 teaspoon fine sea salt. What you're going to do is take 1/2 teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper. You're going to take 1 1/4 teaspoon of ground fennel, which I did not have. You're going to take 1 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 1/4 cup or 1 1/4 teaspoon of ground coriander, and I didn't have coriander, so I just didn't put it in there. 1/4 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves, fresh mint if you have it. What you're going to do is heat your oven to 450. Line a baking sheet with parchment paper or silicone baking mat. Cube your eggplant to about 1 inch. Mine were real small, so they're not quite an inch, I don't think. For eggplant slices, you can slice them about 1 inch thick. I could have done that. Cutting eggplant into thicker pieces makes sure that the inside turns tender and the outside caramelizes, because we want our eggplant to caramelize. What shape you cut it is up to you. I'd rather have it cubed for the small ones, and I tried to get them all evenly sized so they'll cook evenly. Add your eggplant to a large bowl, toss with 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt and 1/2 tablespoon of oil. If you're adding the spice blend, scatter it over the eggplant and toss well. But you see, I sprinkled mine with salt, let it set while I was doing some other stuff for about 10 minutes, and then drain the liquid off. Then add your spices. When the eggplant is well coated with oil, tumble it into a prepared baking sheet. Spread out so they're not touching. Well, mine may be touching. Roast eggplant for about 20 minutes, stir, then roast for another 10 to 15 minutes, or until eggplant is tender and caramelized. If eggplant looks dry while in the oven, toss it with a little bit more of your olive oil or the other oil. I forgot what it was I said. Avocado oil. Serve or store hot in an airtight container for up to 4 days. If you have some, serve them with fresh mint scattered on the top. Fresh mint scattered on the top. Okay, now for your, so I'm going to have to take my eggplant out, stir it around, put it back, cook it for a little while longer. Your Delicata squash, you're going to need, well, the recipe calls for 1 large Delicata squash. I had 2 small ones, cut lengthwise and seeded, 1 tablespoon olive oil, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/8 teaspoon cayenne pepper or to taste. Preheat oven to 450 degrees. Line rim baking sheet with parchment paper or silicone mat. Place squash halves cut side down on cutting board. Cut into 3/8 inch slices. Transfer the slices to large bowl. Drizzle with olive oil. Add salt and cayenne pepper. Toss until squash is well coated. Arrange squash in single layer on the prepared baking sheet. Bake in preheated oven until bottoms are browned and squash is tender, about 12 to 18 minutes. The time to cook will depend on the thickness of your squash. Now, your sweet dumplings. You're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're going to cut the squash in half, remove seeds with spoon. Use a fork to poke several holes in the outside of the skin, each half of the squash. Place squash in baking pan with hollow side up. Add about 1 inch of water to the bottom of the pan. Place 1 tablespoon of butter or olive oil in your squash, each one, 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon in the hollow of each squash. Pour 1/4 cup maple syrup. I didn't have maple syrup, so I put honey. Bake uncovered in the middle rack for 30 to 45 minutes or until flesh is soft. Serve hot. If using sweet dumpling squash, each half will serve as a serving for 1 person, and can be served with dinner as is. Alternatively, you may allow the squash halves to cool partially, remove the skins, and mash or puree the squash. Or you can eat it just like it comes out of the oven. I prefer to eat it the way it is, the way it comes out. So now the eggplant, we might need to take that out and toss it around a bit. It's about half done at this point. I want it to firm up a little bit. Let me check my sweet dumplings back there. I need a fork. Oh, they're the ones that have to be in there the longest. But we can take our Delicata squash out at this point. Don't that look good? I've got all my ingredients here on this cutting board. But I want you to be able to see it, so I want to put it up here. Yeah, see, that's the way I want it. I want the bottom part of it really browned to the point you almost think you're going to burn it, but you're not burning it. I think that looks good, y'all. Cool that pan down in there. But that parchment paper makes cleaning up so much easier. Rearrange those two pans that are in there. And don't that look good? Now these are appetizers. Or you can serve them with your meal. It's up to you. But I like them crunchy. Dip them in your honey mustard sauce. Y'all take a bite. That is so good. Ooh, I'm in my happy place. This is good. Try them in the ranch. Whoa, it's too hot to hold, y'all. There's some ranch on there. Y'all take a bite. It's burning my finger. Whew. That is good. And just to eat it without dipping it in anything, it's real good. That is so good, y'all. Y'all take another bite of my Delicata squash. Just enough sweetness to make it good. And we didn't add sugar to this. All we put to this was the salt and a few seasonings. Because remember, the honey went to the sweet dumpling squash, not this. This was just coated with different seasonings. And the skin is left on, but when you eat it, even the skin is good, y'all. Try some with honey mustard sauce on it. Mmm. Mm-mm. That is so good. I'm not going to be able to leave it alone. Take another bite. That's so good. Mmm. A little piece. The salt, the sweetness, the crunchy, all of it is so good. Try some with some more ranch. Take a bite. Mmm. That's like eating a plate of sweet French fries, almost. So we got our 3 dishes here. As soon as I can get the other ones out of the oven. I don't think they said what to serve the delicata squash with, but you can make your own dips to dip them in. An avocado dip would be real good. Yeah, it doesn't say, but I know the honey mustard is good and the ranch is good. And I'm hungry also. I can't quit eating it. Take a bite. Delicata squash appetizers. Mmm. And I'll bring you back when my other squash is cooked more. Well, we're back. Let me turn this off so it won't make so much racket. We're going to check on our eggplant, because I think it's done. And since we don't have just a little bit of that, I'm going to put it in that little bowl. If you have the big eggplant that you're going to cook, you might want to peel it first. Mine were so little, by the time I peeled it, I wouldn't have any left, so I did leave the peeling on it. So there's the roasted eggplant. Let's check on our sweet dumplings. Because I think they're done too. Yeah, they're done. So I'm going to take them out. See, they still got the honey inside. turn my oven off. But there we go. We've got our sweet dumpling squash. We've got our roasted eggplant. And we've got our Delicata appetizers. Delicata squash. I've got to try one of these. It may be better to try to go into it with a spoon. I don't know. Now, you can, if you have the bigger ones, you could scoop all this up and puree it. I'd rather eat it just out of the shell. This is the sweet dumpling squash. Open wide, y'all. Take a bite. It's a little hot. Mmm. I think some of the honey cooked out of that. And it would have been better with maple syrup. But like I said, I didn't have the maple syrup on hand. So I just used honey. So I'm just going to drizzle a little bit more honey on it. But y'all take a bite, another bite of it. Sweet dumpling squash cooked in the shell or in the hull. I didn't peel it. Mmm. It's almost like eating a dessert with that little bit of honey on there. And like I said, if I'd had the maple syrup, it would have been even better. Take another bite of that sweet dumpling squash. Open wide. I got it. I'm going to eat it. Mmm. There's not much in each one because they were little. Mmm. But that is so good. Now let's try the eggplant over here. Our roasted eggplant. And like I said, I left the peeling on mine because my eggplants were so tiny. If I'd have peeled them, I'd have had no eggplant left. But if you have the large eggplant, you might want to peel it because the larger the eggplant, maybe the tougher the seed. I mean the peeling, I don't know. But take a bite. Roasted eggplant. Mmm. That's a winner. Yep. That's real good, y'all. Take another bite. Mmm. And you can eat it, and then the peeling comes right off. But like I said, if you got the bigger eggplant, you don't just peel it before you cut it up. But there you go, 3 dishes. 3 different types of a squash. So if y'all fix these recipes, enjoy them. And I'll see you on my next one. Bye now. Love y'all.